Okay, cool. Thank you very much. So I'm the executive producer at Turley Talks, which is, you saw Dr. Steve yesterday here giving his talk. Ralph Cochran is the co-owner of that company. So everything you've ever heard Dr. Steve say was really my idea. Well, that's not true. That's not true. Everything he says that he doesn't want to say is my idea, actually. So I'm English. I grew up in England. Just so you guys know, I grew up an unbeliever. I came to America in 2011. I played soccer at a small university in Kentucky. I became a believer while in college. So I did the opposite of what a lot of kids do in this country, as I went to college a pagan and came out a believer. So then I got married. I have 6 kids. We live on a little farm in Indiana. And I went to NSA in 2018 and graduated in 2020. And I got a master's degree there. And we'll come back to that in a second. What I want to do for you in this next 20 minutes is I really want to give you a vision and give you an example, a really concrete example about how the parallel economy and how we in this room can really support each other and really circumnavigate big tech via media specifically. So that seems a little aloof, but we'll get there. I'll land that plane, don't worry. But you should, at the end of this, have the knowledge to be able to tap into billions of dollars of new sales and leads. That's what I'm going to try and do here in the next 19 minutes. So we do this every day at Turley Talks, and we have 2 other influencers that we're partnered with at a company that we call Courageous Patriot Media. So we're doing about 25 million views across those influencers a month. We have a very strategic way of doing it. We have a very strategic way of doing it across all those influences. Some of it may not be applicable to your business, but the principles of what we're doing are super applicable. And that's what I want to kind of give you today, is a vision of those principles, and then we can pull it down into, maybe in the Q&A, about how maybe you could fit it inside your business, or you could have a tranche of new leads coming into your business through these different kind of avenues that we've developed at Turley Talks and at Courageous Patriot Media. So the lay of the land. So one thing that the conservative world did and the right did is they developed a very long time ago talking head conservative influencers, way better than the left did. The left went all in on art and movies and music and culture, and the right went all in on facts, non-fiction media. That's just the truth of the matter. So as business owners, you should recognize that there's actually all the traffic you would ever need to come into your business actually already exists, and it's in the hands of these talking head conservative influencers. Now, the movie thing is really interesting, and the art thing is really interesting, and that's a whole other conversation, and that's a whole other paradigm that we could talk about. But just for endorsements and just for driving new traffic to your business, is that world already exists, and you would never have to give Google any money ever. You would never have to give Facebook any money ever. And we do this all day, every day, across Steve's channel and across the other influencers that we have. And it's actually happening. It's a huge world, and it's really, the media spend world is moving in this direction. Some of you may or may not know the splits that YouTube does with influencers via AdSense is 45-55. So the influencer making videos on YouTube gets 55% of the money that YouTube is making on those videos. So the split is already happening. Now, YouTube, so you as businesses may be spending money with Google and YouTube, and that money is going straight to Google, and then Google is then redistributing it to the influencers. Google, YouTube is redistributing it to the influencers. However, you can get direct to the influencers and have them endorse your business. And so that is, that's kind of the paradigm that we've built and live in. And that I would recommend to anyone in the Patriot parallel economy to be almost the exact way that you should start building your businesses, is via the endorsements of other influencers. So the lay of the land is this. So the right, a very long time ago, built a lot of talking head conservative influencers, and a lot of larger networks like Salem Media, and there's a couple of other ones, kind of took control of that world. Okay, so and they went really old school. So there's 2 types of advertising deals that you can do. There is an exposure style deal, and then there are direct response style deals. A lot of you will want to be in the direct response realm. However, big companies like Ford don't care about direct response. It'd be almost impossible to get someone to say, hey, you should buy this car, and then that car gets sold almost immediately. So there's two types of deals. So you get these big exposure deals. That's why you see all the car commercials on TV. Those are exposure style deals. And then you have direct response style deals. So those are the two. The world that I live in and love is the direct response style deal. So the direct response style deal is where you can measure the success of your ad spend based on certain measurables that we'll talk about in a minute. That's the lay of the land. So those are those two. Old school publishers, like Salem Media, will charge you lots of money for Charlie Kirk to say your business's name. But they do not care in any way whether that is successful or not, because that's not a part of the deal, okay? They don't care. Like you can pay Charlie Kirk a lot of money to say your name. He'll say anything. And it's like $100 grand for a year and you can get on Charlie Kirk, right? Or any of the other influencers, right? However, the way that works is the publisher, which would be Charlie Kirk, Salem Media, any of those guys. I keep saying Charlie Kirk, he's a good guy. But they are closing those deals and they're selling you something called inventory. They're selling that piece of inventory that, hey, there's a 60-second ad read and we're going to charge you $5,000 for that piece of inventory. And they don't care about the results of it. However, inside the parallel Patriot economy, if everyone, and this is the paradigm that we're kind of building, everyone on both sides of the deal truly cares about the success of both the business and the publisher, then what you're going to build is you're going to build an ecosystem of both money to the publisher and to the businesses that completely circumnavigates big tech, big media. So, for instance, if you came to us at Turley Talks and you said, hey, I want 100 leads to my business, we would talk about your customer acquisition cost, how much it costs, how much you're willing to pay per lead, and we would work really closely with you to get you those guaranteed amount of leads for the amount of spend that you do. And the reason for that is because we want to create an economy of repurchases over time. And this is the way the parallel economy should be, and it's completely separate from Google and Facebook. Now, we're using those platforms, plundering the Egyptians, right? But we're using those platforms for exposure and reach, but the money is staying inside the parallel economy, and that's the most powerful thing. And one thing that I want to say specifically to this, because the money stays inside the parallel economy, you're actually more powerful at that point, and your businesses are more powerful at that point because you're doing business with the customers that are listening to the media that you would want to do business with. So if someone's listening to CrossPolitic, I know that audience is a certain type of person, unless Gabe has a bunch of liberals listening to him, which I don't think he does. So you would have a ton of those people that you want to do business with. They're honorable purchases. They would be honorable clients. There would be people that care about their kids. There would be people that want to do those things. So if advertising on CrossPolitic, you're going to get those leads out of that realm. Same with Turley Talks, and then that guarantee reciprocal nature of working really closely on the tracking of all of that stuff is super, super important. So that's like super in the weeds there. So that's like the separation of the old school model, which was, hey, we'll have someone say your name, or Fox News still do this. We'll throw a 30-second commercial during Gutfeld or whatever, but we don't care whether it actually works or not. But inside the parallel economy and inside this room, you really have billions of dollars of ad spend and $1 billion of gross revenue that could be had. And a good example of this is I went to NSA in 2018 after having listened to CrossPolitic, right? So CrossPolitic, that video probably had less than 1,000 views, but I was one of the 1,000 viewers. So I go to NSA on that endorsement. There's no tracking there, but there should be. But so I go to CrossPolitic. So I go to NSA via the endorsement of CrossPolitic. I was like the perfect person to have listened to that ad. I go to NSA after that. I learn everything that I do at NSA, right? And then I leave NSA and with a whole new worldview and a whole new life. And then I take that information, and now I'm working with Ralph and Steve and making them tons of money. Joking, but being successful in that world. So the total addressable market from really small videos is actually massive. because that distribution of wealth that has come from me learning things, listening across politics for years, and then going on is super, super powerful. And then it's realized in the market through all of this stuff. Now I'm here talking to you, right? And if you take this model, you can go make tons of money. And it's all from a video with less than 1,000 views. And it was a direct kind of spend. And that's kind of like the model there of the parallel economy and how that would reinforce the actual world that you want your kids to live in and the actual world of the businesses that you want to build and you want your businesses to thrive in. Okay. So that's kind of like my model of unlimited money and how it should work. And so one really interesting thing is we developed this model, and this is kind of an endorsement for Brian. One of our core values at Turley Talks is extreme ownership. And so we used to sell inventory. We used to, a bunch of you probably, you didn't do deals with us, but like you could have come to us and we sold you 10 ad reads for X amount of dollars, right? And there was no ownership over that. And so one of our core values being extreme ownership, we really took control and really took ownership, and no other media company was doing it at the time, to like make sure that the people that were advertising with us were getting the exact results that they wanted. And that was just the outworking of the EOS model. We're an EOS company. It was just a natural outworking of that. Now that that vision and those core values were instilled in the staff, we started building systems and processes that really matched those values. And Brian was obviously a huge help with that. So, okay, so for the next, how long, Gabe? 5 minutes, I'm going to teach you. So you could go to all the conservative influencers in the world and generate all the sales that you want via them. However, it's way more, and that's pretty profitable, right, Jim? However, you could also do this for yourselves, okay? And so not only are we in the business of monetizing the traffic that we already have, those 25 million views, we're also in the business of generating more views. And if you own your own traffic sources, it's actually very, very lucrative for you and your business. A good example of this, and by traffic sources, I mean places where people are coming to hear information and get knowledge on an issue. So Gabe's Cross Politic, Steve Turley Talks, people are coming to listen about a perspective about the world, right? So all of you could generate media companies inside of your businesses that are speaking specifically to that issue, and people are coming to hear about those issues from you as an authority. There's a great book called Be the Go-To in your industry. You would be the go-to about questions in your industry. So we're in the business of also generating other types of media traffic sources and other types of eyeballs so that we can then monetize them and have an influence over other types of audiences and have a larger impact that goes back to our vision of the company. These are the types of deals that we can get in the weeds a little bit, but I wanted to get onto the YouTube channel. These are the types of deals that you can do. So you have affiliate deals, JV deals, and sponsorship deals. Affiliate deals are just the way we categorize them are very small rev share deals. If you sell a product for $100 and you're willing to give away $20 for that new customer, every time I sell one of your products for you, you'll give me $20, right? So that would be products that are $1,000 and less. JV deals would be joint venture partnership deals. That's where we're partnering with companies that have products that are $1,000 to $2,000 and more, all the way up to $50,000 and things like that. You would do high splits on those, and you would design the campaign specifically around them. And then you have sponsorship deals. That's where people are paying essentially upfront for those guaranteed conversions based on the channel's inventory. These are the ways that you can measure deals, really simply. Cost per lead. A lot of you, maybe there's some financial advisors in here. Some of you just want to pay $500 for a new lead because there's legality things a lot of times. You can't split on 401ks, but you won't realize the money maybe for 3 or 4 years based on that client. There's lots of things like that. Or CPA deals, which are cost per acquisition. So every time there is a transactional sale, money is exchanged between two parties, then you would pay the publisher out of those types of deals. These are ways that we measure the success of sponsorship runs or measure the success of campaigns. There's a great system called Everflow that we use to measure all of this. which we can talk about later. Okay. So you could use all the existing ones that exist. You go Charlie Kirk, Dr. Steve, all the other influencers that we have. You could go to Cross-Polity. You could do that. Also, though, you could build your own. And very, very quickly, I'm going to show you how to build your own YouTube channel or build your own audience generator that using something called the Blue Ocean strategy, but for your company. So we're working on a new channel. And this is the kind of the matrix that we use. We're using the book, the Blue Ocean Strategy, and then we're applying it to media. So in our research to build out this channel, we want to take Dr. Steve's vision of civilizational populism and we want to introduce it to a younger audience. And we want to do that via an infotainment product, okay? So infotainment would be a faceless 20-minute expose of an issue in the world that then brings in Steve's thesis of civilizational populism. So what we do, we went out into the media space and looked at all the other channels that were talking specifically to that issue. So that would be the red line here. And then across the bottom, you kind of have the different value propositions of those different channels and the videos inside those different channels. So you could have we have the value propositions of informative, cinematic experience, personal connection, video duration, and then these over here are the things that we're bringing to that industry specifically. So the red line is what exists in the world, that already exists, those are on YouTube, and then the blue line is where we will strategically either meet them, be better than them, or do more of them, and then over here is where we will stand out, and that's either value proposition of this traffic source over against the ones that already exist. Because if you try and do what someone else is already doing, you're always going to lose because they're way better at it than you. However, if you get into that world and you match them table stakes wise, like yes, we're on par with them in these areas, but we are providing this different level of value over here, then audiences will gravitate towards you. So you could do financial advising, but from a really super Christian perspective, where you may have some niche inside of that. I'll answer any questions that we have on that at the end. But this is kind of what we work on all day long. It's this and then making people money. So if you wanted to build which I advise everyone to do, is build a small media company, this would be the starting point of the research of how to do that. Because if you can get 1,000 people listening to you every day talk about a specific issue in the world that you can solve, then you're just going to have unlimited leads pouring into your company. And a good example of this is HubSpot just bought The Hustle for like 20 million because they understand the value of this. Business Insider just bought The Morning Brew for upwards of 100 million because they know when you have that traffic, you can filter everything through back into your business. And you don't have to have a big channel to do that. You don't have to have a big media source to do that. If you can have 100 to 150 people every day listening to your content who are potential clients, and you've dialed this in, you will have, for forever, leads just pouring into your company. And all your investment was publishing that media, which is relatively cheap. Unless you're trying to do something like the big infotainment channel. So that's how you can make $1 billion. Yeah. Cool. You good? Do you want me to intro?
You want to intro? Yeah, intro Ralph.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so up next is Ralph Cochran. Ralph Cochran is the president of Turley Talks. He is my boss. He's a very good friend. He kind of helped design a lot of everything I just told you about before I came to the company, and then I took it and ran. So please, here's Ralph.